Three questions that I would ask when hiring a music instructor.
And so now we've gotten to a point where we can't take all the students on, so we need to hire other teachers.
What do they like to work with? What do they like to deal with? Do they have integrity? I would definitely get a feel for that person first.
What if I told you that asking just 3 questions could save you from hiring the wrong music teacher and actually end up helping you build a stronger, more reliable team? In today's video, I'm going to reveal the 3 crucial questions I ask before hiring any music teacher and why these questions are the key to ensuring you hire the right person for your school. Hey, my name is Nick, and these 3 questions help me avoid costly hiring mistakes that really could set my school back. And today, I'm sharing them with you so you can ask these same questions as you hire teachers that will truly help grow your school. And what we've done is we've spoken with our top music school coaches at Build a Music School here, and these are successful school owners who have built amazing teams by hiring the right people from the start. So grab, whatever it is you need to take some notes, because these actionable tips could change the way that you build your team. Let's jump in and hear from our coaches first, and make sure to stick around till the end to hear my 3 questions.
All right, hiring music teachers. This is always a good one because obviously the music teachers, once you move out of teaching, most of us started by teaching ourselves. And so now we've gotten to a point where we can't take all the students on, so we need to hire other teachers. We want them to be just as good as us. We want them to care just as much as us, be as effective, and it doesn't always work that way. So you've got to work hard to find music teachers that fit what your vibe is and what your goal is for your studio. And every studio is different, obviously. So quickly, our hiring process is we'll put an ad out. Craigslist was huge for us for years and years, but now we use Indeed, usually exclusively in Indeed. We have a page on our website for people that can apply through a website. So if you don't have that on there, you might want to add that. So we go through Indeed, or we get a referral. We'll always tell current teachers, hey, we're looking for more piano teachers, more guitar teachers. If you have any friends or colleagues that are, looking to teach, please send them our way. So we'll put that out to our general staff when we're looking to hire. One thing is we're always hiring. So our ads are almost always up. We're always looking for at least people to add to the sub list, but we have teachers come and go and schedules come and go and students come and go. And so it's always good to hire ahead of time and not hire out of necessity when all of a sudden you have 10 piano students ready to go and you don't have a music teacher. Now you got to hire, and you might not hire the best because you got to get someone quick. So I'd be proactive on that, to always go through the hiring process and always be hiring. So what we do is once we get a resume in, we look it over. If it looks good, we set up a Zoom interview. During the Zoom interview, we go through a list of questions, logistics as far as pay, availability, what instruments they teach, all that good stuff. And then a couple questions we ask them, tell me about your love of the arts, of your instrument, of music. We also do art and dance. So if we're interviewing for that, we'll ask them, talk about how you work with kids. If you have experience with kids, we mainly teach kids. So if you're teach adults, then you might, focus that question on adults. Then we ask them, what's your approach to music? Walk me through a typical first lesson with a student. And so that way you can tell the seasoned teachers, for piano, okay, I come in and I ask the student how they're doing. I ask them if they're interested in certain styles of music. We sit down at the piano. I explain the piano. We talk about the white keys and the black keys. We sit down, we put the hands where I show them proper technique. Like, if you can tell when someone's starting to describe what that first lesson looks like, how much experience they have, and what a lesson the vibe is going to be. So you've got that scenario versus someone goes, oh yeah, I have them come in, I sit down, I tell them all about me and how much, a great teacher I am. And then I say, okay, great. Let's play this, let's play For Elise. Let's jump in, or let's learn this Foo Fighter song. And so, not that one is better than the other. Maybe it is, but more importantly, what is the vibe of your studio? And so once you really define what that is, you can look for those teachers, right? That fit that. One big question that we always ask that I think is really fun is, if a student was to describe you, what would they say? So that's always a good one, because a little self-reflective, they have to think about, oh, okay, so how do my students view me? Do they think I'm funny? Do they think I'm kind? Do they think I'm strict? Do they think I give them a lot of, homework to work on, that type of thing. So it really allows them to give a description of themselves, but hopefully through a kid's eyes. So that's always a good one. And then after that interview, if that goes well, we ask them to send 3 references. So they have to send us 3 references. And we have a list of about 10 questions. It's just an email. So they send us their 3 emails from people that they've worked with or know. We send them off that questionnaire, and it talks more, not necessarily, and there are some questions about their musical ability, but it's more about, did they show up on time? Were they professional? How often did they cancel or, not show up? Or ask for vacation time, like that kind of logistical stuff from a previous boss, or maybe it's been a student of theirs, a private student of theirs is always a good one as well, just to kind of get to know, that aspect of them. And then if that all looks good, the references come back positive, then we bring them in for an in-person interview. During the in-person interview, we have them play for us. We might put a sheet music in front of them or a book just to make sure what kind of level they're at. They play for us, and if everything looked good, then we offer them a contract, we bring them on, and we start an onboarding process, which is a whole nother topic. So those are kind of the steps that we do: the resume, a Zoom interview, references, and then the in-person interview. So that's kind of the steps that we do to bring on a new music teacher.
3 questions that I would ask when hiring a music instructor are the following. The first question is, where do you see yourself in 1 to 5 years? I like to talk about these in 2 separate sections. So like, where do you see yourself in 1 year? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? And it helps me to get an understanding of a short-term career goal as well as a long-term career goal. The second question that I like to answer is, how would you structure your class? The way that we had our instructors were independent contractors, so we relied heavily on the instructors to be eligible to create their own lesson plans. And I like to see a sample of what that lesson plan looks like, so I could kind of critique their preparedness for the responsibility of managing their student load. And the third question that I would like to ask is, how do you respond to conflict? I think it's really important that you try to expose any areas where you might be misaligned at the onset of building a relationship with a candidate. And this is a helpful way for us to see what their conflict and communication style are and make sure that we get aligned and stay aligned from the onset of the relationship.
When I'm hiring new instructors, I always make sure that they do a mini lesson with me. Now, this might mean I tend to do a 8-minute, that's kind of my suggestion to them. And I ask them, and I make sure that they know this before they come in for their primary interview with myself and one other individual. And that is one other recommendation, that in your hiring process, that you do have at least one of the interviews with somebody else. I made some mistakes in my hiring because of either feeling panicky, like, oh, I got to hire somebody, and just going for it and not including anybody else in the hiring process, or thinking I got a good vibe and then later discovering that my own judgment in that scenario wasn't great. I did take it personally for a little bit. I was a little worried about why can't I see what's wrong with these people? But that's another story for another day. Got it all worked out by adding somebody to the hiring process. They don't have to be in all of them, but before a person is hired, making sure we've got a vibe check. Okay. So when they're hired for their primary interview, the hour-long one, they are asked to do a teaching demonstration. When I'm hiring, when they're doing that, they are asked to assume that they are teaching an 8 to 10-year-old it's not their first lesson, but maybe they're within the first 6 months. So they're not looking to teach how to find middle C. They're not looking to name the guitar strings, but they don't know a lot. And so that way I'm finding out how they treat a learning experience. I ask them to treat me like I'm 8 to 10 so that they're not babying me, but teaching a child is truly different than teaching an adult. And so I want to make sure that they have that type of experience, or that type of sensitivity, maybe is a good way to put it as well. So during that demo, I'm checking in on, can they describe things in ways that make sense? Do they actually know the material? Do they, what way are they teaching? Are they treating this faux person, this avatar of a kid, in a respectful manner? And I sometimes will make intentional mistakes to see how they will correct it as well. Another question that I ask is, I always make sure to call their references. I'm okay with them providing at least one personal reference. And I tell them, I'm like, it can be your mom, it can be a sibling, I don't care. I need a personal reference, a professional reference, and ideally an educational reference, but I don't necessarily require that. I personally don't require a music degree for my instructors, because being an excellent musician and being an excellent instructor are often two separate things. For our more advanced players, yes, I need somebody who truly knows the material, knows the theory behind it. But sometimes when I get somebody that comes to me and they are like, I am all about theory, I am all about technique, I go, you are not going to be thrilled with the kids that are beginners, because they are not thrilled about technique and they are not thrilled about theory. That passion kind of comes later. So those are the main questions. And then, yeah, like seeing them teach, following up with their references. And I mean, you still need to hear them play, obviously, so that you can kind of watch their own technique. One mistake that I've made before is I was hiring for a particular class type, and I hired two separate people for that class type that they hadn't taught that before, and they were not interested in being trained for it. So make sure you look out for that too.
I tend to hire more on recommendation rather than sort of cold lead hiring, if that kind of makes sense. So we are in a relatively small community where everybody sort of knows each other. So I always make sure that I ask around, what do you know about this person? We sort of shoulder tap a little bit. What do they like to work with? What do they like to deal with? Do they have integrity? I would definitely get a feel for that person first. Then we invite them to come and observe some lessons and sit down and have a bit of a conversation with them around what their goals are, what they're hoping to achieve in the next number of years, what their commitments are at the moment, where they are in their life. It's really important that they have the space to be able to commit. And something that I find is, people can say whatever they like in an interview. It's really important to see them in action. So what we do is we bring them on casually as cover tutors to begin. There's a couple of reasons for this. So firstly, they get a real feel for the school, for the culture, for the environment, for how we do things. They're learning by observing others, but we also get to observe them in action without committing to a hire. So, watching them in the classroom, how do they interact with the children? How do they interact with the parents? What are they like when they receive feedback? Do they take it on board? Are they proactive? Do they really think big picture? Are they like out the door at 5 o'clock and it doesn't matter if they've finished their work or not, they're off for the weekend? You get a really good feel for who somebody is by bringing them in on that part-time basis without the commitment. So if that person is looking to be someone that you really feel would be a genuine contributor to your team, then this is a great person to bring in. If you get to know them and after a few weeks you're like, gosh, this guy's just not jumping on board with our policies, they've said everything right in the interview, but we're just not seeing that play out in the actual lessons, it's very easy to just say, hey, we have no more cover for you, I'm sorry. And you've never committed to contracts and all the rest of it in terms of full-time or permanent employment. So for me, having someone in action and seeing them in action is actually more important than the interview itself, because the interview is never really a true representation of who that person is, or can be an inaccurate representation. Many times I've seen this.
So we've worked and developed our hiring process over the past few years, and we've got it down to this 3-step process. The first thing we do is a dead short phone call, just quick personality check. Is this person going to vibe with your company? Or what you can do is just ask them for a super short personality video where they just get face to camera and say why they want the job and what motivated them to apply. The second thing we do is a very short Zoom meeting where we have a set amount of questions and we get to meet them face to face over Zoom. and we see if they're going to gel with your company, all the key culture points, qualification points that you want to hash out early on, get that done in the Zoom, and then we move them to in-person, where we see them deliver a 30-minute small group lesson and check that they can teach in the style of your business. That's our hiring and interview process.
And one of the questions that we do ask when we're doing a Zoom with a applicant is we ask them a question such as, what do you consider?
How do you define?
How do you define personal success? And from that, we usually find out a little bit about that person, what's important to them, what they're driven by. And that helps us to work out whether we feel they would be a good culture fit for our music school.
We also ask them what their 12-month plan is. Are they going to be going home from university over the summer periods, or are they going to be sticking around, wanting to get fully planted in the city, keen to grow in a role? You know, are they going to be wanting to grow with your company, or is it just a quick side job that they want to do while they do a few gigs? And really, gigging is the most important thing. You want to see what they're looking for, and is that going to align with your company, and are they the right teacher for you as early on?
Yeah, and are they going to be consistent? Are they going to be here for more than 12 months? For us, we always want teachers to be on our team for at least 12 months, so those kids have got consistency, they've got the same face week in, week out, the teacher's not always going off gigging, and they've got cover teachers all the time. So that's one of the things that we're trying to kind of work out from that first Zoom, like, where do the priorities lie with this applicant? Are they really wanting to be here to be invested in our company and work with these kids, or is this really just a side hustle for them and they're really going to be off at any given moment to go on a cruise ship and perform around the world, whatever it might be? So we do try and suss those out from day one when we get that Zoom interview booked in.
Thank you, coaches. I hope you got a ton of value out of all of those interview questions. All right, so here are the 3 questions that I ask during every single interview. And the first one is actually one of my favorites. It is, you just simply ask, can you please describe to me your perfect work culture? Now, here's why this is such a great question, is because, you know, there are a lot of people out there who may be a great employee for another company, but they may not fit your culture, and that's okay. But what we really need to do is we need to make sure that they are a good fit for your culture at your school. And so once we ask that question and they start describing that cultural fit or their work culture, what we determine quickly is, are they the right cultural fit for us? And so I've asked this question before, where we believe in having a ton of autonomy at our school. And what I found was there was a specific employee or a potential hire who really wanted me to be present all the time and really be with them. And that's just not how we operate. And that's fine. That just means that that employee is not a great fit for our school. And so once we ask that question, we were immediately able to determine this person is probably not a great fit for us. Additionally, what it can do, it can also really reveal some of their values, and do their values align with you and your school's values? Because when they give you that sort of perfect work culture, you know, they're going to see if you prioritize, you know, collaboration, autonomy, flexibility, structure, like all these different aspects. And then additionally, you can also sort of see if teamwork and collaboration is one of your really big values at your school, well, maybe how they answer, that's going to show you that how they approach working with others, which again, for us, where we're a school who really tries to thrive on autonomy, but, you know, have a little bit of that teamwork and collaboration, all that sort of stuff. We have this healthy blend, and we really want to find who is the right person for us. And then ultimately it allows us to set healthy expectations for when we bring that person in. If we bring that person in, we know that they are aligned with who we are, to our core, to our mission, to our values, all that sort of thing. And again, so that question that we're going to ask is, describe your perfect work culture, and just let them go. And again, really pay attention to what they're saying. Is what they're saying in line with the culture that you have cultivated at your school? The second question I ask during every single interview is, what steps have you taken, either whether it's personally or professionally, to develop and improve yourself in the past 12 months? Now, here's why this is such a great question. So like one of our big values at our school is perpetual growth. And so what does that mean? That isn't just like, growing our student count at our school. What that also means is that's like, okay, well, how am I growing myself personally and professionally? And so when we ask that question, what we see is we see somebody who is likely hungry and they want to drive and grow and develop themselves as a person. And so you see this growth mindset that comes out of person. And so what we'll see is a lot of times we'll find that a strong candidate will show like a very proactive attitude towards learning, improvement, and growing, which quite honestly, in this role of teaching is so important because there are always new teaching methods out there, teaching models, and we really want to make sure that people are willing to grow with us. And it's not just this like static thing of where we want to be the same person today that we are in 12 months. We want to be continuously growing personally and professionally. It also demonstrates a whole level of motivation. So a candidate who has taken steps to develop themselves outside of work, what they're able to do is to demonstrate this intrinsic motivation really within themselves and a desire to improve. And again, that is so important for us, especially in this like fast-paced learning world that we live in. Now, it also reveals a little bit of resourcefulness. And so, the steps that they've taken to improve themselves, have they been crafty at how they've done it, and may provide a little insight into that. And then again, it always will go back to your school's goals. And so, again, our goal is perpetual growth. And so what we can see is we can, bring in staff members who align with that goal and with that value at our school. And the third and final question that we ask during every interview is, can you tell me about a time that you have received constructive feedback from a supervisor or maybe even a peer, and then tell me how you used it to improve your work or your personal life? And so this question is so great because it's immediately going to tell you how receptive somebody is to feedback. And so if they sit there and they didn't do anything with the feedback, they made no changes, well, what we can see here is, if I were to provide feedback to this person, odds are they aren't going to take it either. And again, go back to perpetual growth. Now we're not helping each other grow individually, personally, and professionally. And so we want to see how open somebody is going to be to receiving feedback, because honestly, they may get feedback from their students. They may get feedback from their parents, and we need them to be able to take that information and be able to do something with it. Additionally, it's going to show a whole new level of emotional intelligence. And so a candidate who can handle that sort of constructive criticism or constructive feedback without really taking offense and taking it all on personally, that's a whole new level of emotional maturity that we want to see in our candidates. And it exhibits a very high level of professionalism within all of that as well, which again is going to be a key quality to maintaining this like positive, fun, productive work environment that we strive, to have in our school. It also highlights growth from criticism. So again, one of the big things that I see within myself is, whenever I, get feedback or receive criticism for something I've done, I realize that I can't take it on personally, but that it is an opportunity for me to learn to grow, whether it's a mistake I made or just a new way of adopting and growing into something. This is really a way for me to grow. And the last one is, I believe it also helps with some problem solving skills, because what we can do is we can navigate some of that conflict a little bit and look at each other and not come down on somebody because I received criticism or negative feedback based on something that I did. But it does help me then craft and create some problem solving skills that will then help me grow. And so those are the big three questions that I ask. Now, if you're also like, but you have to ask more questions than that, right, Nick? The answer is yes. And we have loads of other questions that we ask. And in fact, what we have done is we use all of the interview templates that are in the Build a Music School membership. And so if you're like, but what does that template look like? here's what I want you to do. I want you to grab the 7-day trial that's somewhere on this video, and I want you to go all in and check out all the hiring stuff that we have in the modules here at Build a Music School. And so these will help you really build that rock star team and really grow your music school. And take that interview template, and as you take that interview template, make sure you're really capitalizing on all the great ideas and the questions that you have in there to build a team that fits with your culture and what you're essentially trying to build. So again, somewhere in this video, claim that 7-day trial, and I can't wait to see you in the Build a Music School membership.